Ever wondered why that credit card bill seems to creep up every month? Well, we're about to unravel the mystery that often baffles many, the intricacies of credit card interest. When we talk about credit card interest, what we're really referring to is the price you pay for the convenience of borrowing money. It's not just borrowed money, though. You're borrowing time to pay back what you owe without dipping into your own pocket all at once. But as with most conveniences in life, there's a cost, and that cost is interest. So how is this interest determined? It starts with something called the annual percentage rate, or APR. This is the yearly interest rate charged on borrowed money. The APR on your credit card is determined by your card issuer, and it can vary based on several factors, like your credit score, the type of card you have, and even the current state of the economy. Now, it might seem that the APR is a yearly rate, and you'd be correct. However, credit card companies apply this interest more frequently than once a year, often daily. This is known as the daily periodic rate, and it's calculated by dividing your APR by the number of days in the year. This daily rate is then applied to your outstanding balance, which can cause your debt to grow even if you're not spending. And here's where it gets a bit trickier. Since interest is applied daily, your balance can increase each day, leading to what's known as compounding interest. This means you're not just paying interest on the original amount you borrowed, but also on the interest that has already been added to your balance. It's a bit of a double-edged sword. On one hand, credit cards offer the flexibility to pay for purchases over time. On the other, the convenience comes at a cost, and that cost can compound quickly if not managed wisely. Understanding how your credit card interest works is the first step towards smart financial management. By comprehending these intricacies, you can take control of your financial destiny and turn that creeping monthly bill into a manageable part of your budget. So how exactly do credit card companies calculate interest? Well, let's break it down. It all starts with something called the daily periodic rate, or DPR. This is the annual interest rate divided by the number of days in a year. So if your credit card has an annual interest rate of 20%, your DPR would be approximately 0.054%. That means for every $100 of balance, you would accrue about 5 cents of interest per day. But wait, it's not that simple. The interest isn't just calculated on the original balance. Credit card companies use something called compounding, which means they're calculating interest on the interest you've already been charged. This is why it's so important to pay off your credit card balance as soon as possible. Now, let's talk about the billing cycle. This is the period of time between your statements. It's usually about 30 days, but it can vary. The length of the billing cycle can impact the amount of interest you're charged. Here's how it works. Each day, the credit card company calculates the interest for that day based on the DPR and your balance at the end of the day. They keep a running total of these daily interest charges. At the end of the billing cycle, they add up all the daily interest charges to get the total interest for that cycle. So for example, if you made a purchase of $100 at the start of the cycle and made no other charges or payments, you would have about $1.60 in interest at the end of a 30-day cycle with a 20% annual interest rate. This means that even small daily purchases can add up over time. It's not just the cost of the item you're buying, but also the interest that it can accrue if you don't pay off your balance in full each month. Now you know how your daily purchases can affect your monthly bill. Let's put this knowledge into action with a real-world example. Suppose you have a credit card with an annual percentage rate, or APR, of 20%. This is the yearly interest rate that your credit card company charges for borrowing money. Now, this might seem high, but remember, credit card companies make a significant portion of their profits from interest charges. So how do we break this APR down into a daily rate? Well, we simply divide the APR by the number of days in a year. In our case, that's 20% divided by 365 days. This gives us roughly 0.0548% as our daily periodic rate. Small, isn't it? But don't be fooled. These small numbers can add up quickly over time. Now let's say you have an outstanding balance of $1,000 on your credit card. To calculate the interest for one day, simply multiply this balance by the daily rate. That's $1,000 times 0.0548%, which gives us about 54 cents. This is the amount of interest you'll accrue in just one day if you don't pay off your balance. Over time, this interest can compound, leading to higher and higher balances. Let's say you don't make any payments or purchases for a month. The interest you'd accrue over 30 days would be roughly $16.20. That's almost $200 a year in interest alone, and that's without considering any additional purchases or penalties. So you can see how quickly interest charges can add up, and why it's crucial to understand how your credit card company calculates these charges. It's not just about knowing the APR. It's about understanding how this rate is applied to your outstanding balance and how it can significantly impact your financial health over time. See, calculating credit card interest isn't as daunting as it seems. Making only the minimum payment each month? Here's what you need to know. Picture this. You've got a credit card balance that you're chipping away at, month by month. You're making your minimum payments right on time, every time. Sounds like you're on track, doesn't it? But let's take a closer look. When you make only the minimum payment, most of that money goes towards paying off the interest, not the principal amount you owe. This is because credit card companies calculate interest based on your average daily balance. So, the more you owe, the more interest you're charged. Think of it as a scale, with your payments on one side and the interest on the other. When you're only making minimum payments, the scale tips towards the interest. You're not making much of a dent in your principal balance, and that's where the trap lies. Now, what happens when you keep making just the minimum payment? Well, it's a bit like trying to fill a leaky bucket. You're constantly pouring in money, but it's trickling out just as fast in the form of interest. The result? You end up paying a lot more over time than you originally borrowed. Let's put this into perspective. Imagine you have a credit card balance of $1,000 with an annual interest rate of 20%. If you make only the minimum payment each month, it could take you over 7 years to pay off that balance. 7 years. And that's not even taking into account any additional purchases you might make with that card. But what if you were to pay more than the minimum? Suddenly, that scale starts to tip in your favor. You're paying down the principal faster, which means less interest is being charged. And the faster you pay down your balance, the more money you save in the long run. So, the next time you're about to make just the minimum payment, think about this. Every extra dollar you pay now is a dollar less you'll owe in interest later. And that, my friends, can make a world of difference. Paying more than the minimum can save you a lot of money in the long run. Let's recap what we've learned about calculating credit card interest. We started off by diving into the intricacies of credit card interest, dissecting how it's not just a simple rate but a compound one, calculated on a daily basis. This means that the interest on your credit card is being calculated every day based on the balance you carry. It's not a one-time thing, but a continuous process that can add up to a significant amount if not managed properly. We then broke down the calculation into manageable steps. Understanding the annual percentage rate, or APR, is crucial. This rate, divided by 365, gives us the daily periodic rate. Multiply that by your outstanding balance, and voila, you have the amount of interest you're accruing daily. Next, we walk through a real-world example, showing how these calculations play out in everyday life. The numbers may seem small at first, but over time, they can snowball into something much larger. This is why it's so important to keep tabs on your credit card balance and make payments regularly. In the fourth scene, we discuss the impact of making only minimum payments. Doing so may seem like a good idea in the short term, but it can lead to a hefty interest bill in the long run. The longer you take to pay off your balance, the more interest you'll end up paying. Lastly, we've got some tips up our sleeves to help you manage your credit card usage. Aim to pay off your balance in full each month to avoid interest charges. If that's not possible, try to pay more than the minimum required. And remember, keeping a close eye on your credit card statements can help you stay on top of your interest charges and overall financial health. With this knowledge, you can make more informed financial decisions. Remember, understanding your credit card interest is a key step towards better financial health.